Good afternoon, kids. This is Miss Davy, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we are going to have a special session, and I call this one Review with Me, Miss Davy.
Hello, kids. Welcome to the second part or part 2 of this Review with Me episode of Quarter 4 Physics Grade 9 Science. So again, the topics that we are covering for this review are the following: the uniform accelerated motion, projectile motion, free fall, impulse and momentum, mechanical energy, heat, work efficiency, and electrical energy. So let's start. Where does the pendulum have the greatest potential energy? Is it A, at point A, B, point B, C, point C, or D, point D? Alright, so to answer this one, we have to know what is the potential energy and the kinetic energy on each of the points of a pendulum. Okay, so looking at this diagram, as you can see here, at the center vertical point of the pendulum, which is here, number 3, the potential energy is 0, while the kinetic energy is at its maximum. Now, at the highest point on the left side, which is noted as 1, the PE or potential energy is maximum while kinetic energy is 0. Also on the other side of this diagram on the right, we have the 0.5, which wherein the PE is also at its maximum and the KE is equal to 0. So this only shows that when the pendulum reaches its highest point, which is 1 or 5, it will briefly be at rest for a very short instant. At this highest point, the pendulum also has its greatest amount of potential energy. So bakit mataas yung potential energy? Because it will be at rest for a very, very short instant. So there you have it. The correct answer to this one is A. As a pendulum swings from its highest to lowest position, what happens to its kinetic and potential energy? So again, we are looking from the highest position to the lowest position. What happens to the kinetic and potential energy? Is it A, the PE or potential energy decreases while the kinetic energy increases? B, the potential energy increases while the kinetic energy decreases? C, the potential energy and kinetic energy increase and decrease together? Or D, impossible to know without knowing the mass? So let us look once again at the diagram. Okay, so from the highest position, so we are looking at 1 and 5 to the lowest position, which is 3. So again, what is happening to the potential and kinetic energy? At the start of the highest position, again, the potential energy is at its maximum and kinetic energy is 0. So that means that when the pendulum swings from the highest to lowest, the potential energy decreases. Whereas the kinetic energy at the highest position is 0, while the kinetic energy at the lowest position is at its maximum, meaning the kinetic energy is increasing. So the correct answer to this one is letter A. The potential energy decreases while the kinetic energy increases. What is mechanical energy? A. Energy of momentum. B. Motion of all matter. C. It is what metal creates when heated. Or D. All potential and kinetic energy in a system. So this is a very easy question. So the mechanical energy is correct. All potential and kinetic energy in a system. Which scenario would most likely occur when a cue ball strikes a pool ball that is at rest? A. The cue ball will be at rest. B. The cue ball will bounce back from the pool ball around the same velocity. C. The pool ball will accelerate to a velocity greater than the cue ball moving. Or D. The pool ball will accelerate in the same direction as the cue ball was initially moving. The correct answer to this question is letter D. The pool ball will accelerate in the same direction as the cue ball was initially moving. A mass has a momentum of 50 kg meter per second. When its velocity doubles, what happens to its momentum? Is it A, becomes half, B, it doubles, C, it quadruples, or D, it stays the same? So remember this key concept. Mass and velocity are both directly proportional to momentum. If you increase either the mass or the velocity, the momentum of the object will also increase proportionally. If you double the mass or velocity, you also double the momentum. So the correct answer to this question is letter B, doubles. Two soccer balls collided. The first soccer ball hit the second soccer ball, which was at rest on the ground. What is true of the momentum? Is it A, the total momentum of the isolated system increases? B, the total momentum of the isolated system decreases? C, the total momentum of the isolated system stays the same? Or D, the total momentum of the isolated system equals 0 since the second soccer ball was at rest? The correct answer to this question is letter C. The total momentum of the isolated system stays the same. The total momentum of two objects before collision is 450 kg meter per second. What will be the total momentum after collision? Is it A, 0 kg meter per second, B, 175 kg meter per second, C, 350 kg meter per second, or D, 450 kg meter per second? So let us again recall this concept. When two objects collide, the total momentum before the collision is equal to the total momentum after the collision. So this is true in the absence of external forces. So this is actually true because there is what we call the law of conservation of momentum. So in the case of this problem, the momentum of objects before the collision is 450 kilograms, that meter per second. So the total momentum after collision is also the 450 kilogram that meter per second. An egg gets dropped from a height of 0.1 meter and cracks. A second egg gets dropped from the same height, but this time it lands on a glass of water and does not break. In terms of impulse, the blank. A, the first egg experienced more impulse. B, the second egg experienced more impulse. C, first and second egg did not experience impulse. Or D, first and second egg experienced the same impulse. The correct answer to this question is letter D. first and second egg experience the same impulse. If the change of momentum of an object is 50 kg/ms, how much is the impulse? Is it A, 0 kg/ms, B, 0 kg/ms squared, C, 50 kg/ms, or D, 50 kg/ms squared? So change in momentum. We have to remember these concepts. Momentum changes when either the mass, velocity, or both changes. It is the velocity that changes most of the time. Change in velocity is acceleration. What causes acceleration? It's the force. Therefore, greater force means greater change in momentum. There is a third thing that changes the momentum, and it is the time. A force applied for a long time produces more change in momentum than does the same force applied briefly. What is the difference between impulse and change in momentum? So impulse is equal to change in momentum. The equation above does not mean that impulse and change in momentum are the same thing. They are not the same thing. The only thing that they are in comparison with is that their amounts are the same. They are not the same thing, but their amounts are the same. So the correct answer to this one is 50 kg/ms. Which has more momentum? A car stopped at a red light or a bike moving at 15 meters per hour? Is it A, the car, B, bike, C, they are equal, or D, cannot determine using the information provided? So let us recall the concept of momentum. Momentum, P, can be defined as mass in motion. All objects have mass. Again, mass is the amount of matter in an object. So if an object is moving, then it has momentum. Momentum depends on two factors, which are mass and velocity. Again, this is a vector quantity because it has both magnitude and direction. So, in short, the formula for momentum is mass times velocity. And the unit for mass is kilogram and velocity is meter per second. Now, there is a question here. Can smaller objects ever have as much momentum as a large object? So, pwede daw bang magkapareho yung momentum ng small object at saka ng large object? So, the answer here is yes. But smaller mass object has to move with a higher velocity. So if you have both a small object and a large object, they can have the same momentum only when the smaller object would have higher velocity. Let us look at the following examples. A bus can have a large momentum even if it is moving very slowly because it has a large mass. Again, mass times velocity is momentum. A bullet, which is very, very small, can have a large momentum even if it has a small mass because it is moving at a high velocity. Now, what about an object at rest? So if an object is at rest, it has no momentum, none at all, no matter how large is its mass, because momentum is not the same as inertia. So going back to our question a while ago and relating it to the examples that I have given, so which has more momentum? Is it the car or the bike? Are they equal, or you cannot determine using the information provided? Okay, so the correct answer is letter B, bike. So even though the bike is smaller rather than the car, the bike is moving at 15 meter per hour. However, the car has a larger mass, but it is at a rest. It is not moving on a red light. So meaning, if it is not moving, it is at rest, it has no momentum at all. So that leaves us with the bike. The momentum of an object depends upon the object's blank and blank. Is it A, mass and distance, B, mass and energy, C, mass and velocity, or D, mass and shape? The correct answer to this one is, of course, mass and velocity. What would happen if a cannonball launcher released cannonballs continuously at the same initial speed while decreasing the angle of release? A, the 75 degrees would have the highest height, reach, and the lowest range. The 60 degree would have the highest height, reach, and the greatest range. C, the 45 degree would have the lowest height, reach, and the greatest range. Or D, the 30 degree would have the lowest height, reach, and the least range. So let us look at this short animation to better understand how it looks like. Okay, so the first one shows the 30 degree angle. The second one shows 45 degree angle. And the third one shows the 60 degree angle. So based on the maximum height, which among the three is at its maximum or the highest vertical? Okay, so the answer is the 60 degrees. But when it comes to the range or the highest horizontal path, which has the highest? So we have 45 degrees. So what does this mean? As can be seen from the animation, each cannonball follows a parabolic path. The cannonball launched at a 45 degree angle had the greatest range. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, mas malayo yung bagsak ng cannonball. The cannonball launched at 60 degree angle had the highest peak. So, yung 60 degrees naman, yun yung may pinakamataas. Okay? The cannonball launched at 30 degree angle reached the ground first. And the one with 30 degrees was the first one to reach the ground. So, going back to the question. Alright, so going back to our problem or to the question a while ago, let us discuss each of the choices and check whether it is true or not. Okay, letter A, the 75 degree would have the highest height, reach, and the lowest range. So a while ago, we are comparing 60, 45, and 30, and we have seen that 60 degree has the highest height and the lowest range or the least range. So letter A is true. B, the 60 degree would have the highest height, reach, and the greatest range. So 60 degree has the highest height, but it does not have the greatest range. So letter B is not true. The 45 degree would have the lowest height, reach, and the greatest range. So this is not true as well because the 30 degree would have the lowest height and 45 degrees, yes, has the highest range. And lastly, so letter C is not true as well. Letter D, the 30 degree would have the lowest height. Yes, that is true. And the least range. That is not true. So letter D is also false. So that leaves us with letter A. The correct answer is letter A. Which of the following statements best describe the maximum height of a projectile? A. It is a motion in which an object is thrown near the Earth's surface and it moves along a curved path under the action of gravity only. B. It is the maximum distance traveled by the projectile during the entire motion. C. It is the maximum vertical distance traveled by the projectile from the ground level during its motion. Or D. The maximum with which an object is projected in air. The correct answer to this one is letter C, the maximum vertical distance traveled by the projectile from the ground level during its motion. Which of the following angles will enable a projectile to reach the highest possible height? A. 10 degrees, B. 45 degrees, C. 75 degrees, or D. 85 degrees. The correct answer is letter D, 85 degrees. What equation should be used to compute the horizontal initial velocity of an object projected at an angle? Is it A, Vix equals Vi sine theta, B, Vix is equal to initial velocity cosine theta, C, Viy is equal to initial velocity sine theta, or D, Viy equals initial velocity cosine theta. Okay, so we have to do elimination method. So we are looking at the horizontal initial velocity. So when we say horizontal, it's in the x-axis and not the y-axis. So we have to eliminate C and D because they are in the y-axis. So that leaves us with A and B. Now, when we are talking about the initial velocity and its horizontal, what would be used? Is it the sine or the cosine? So the correct answer for this question is letter B. Vix is equal to initial velocity cosine theta. What angle will give the greatest range in the x direction? A. 30 degrees, B. 45 degrees, C. 60 degrees, or D. 90 degrees. The correct answer to this one is letter B, 45 degrees. What acts on a projectile in the y direction that causes an object to travel in a parabolic arc? Is it A, friction, B, gravity, C, tension, or D, no force acting? The correct answer is letter B, gravity. What does horizontal range of projectiles mean? Is it A, it is the horizontal distance traveled by the projectile during the entire motion? B, the point from which the object is projected in air? C, the parabolic path followed by a projectile in air? Or D, none of the above? The correct answer is none other than the letter A. It is the horizontal distance traveled by the projectile during the entire motion. If you were to create a diagram showing an object projected horizontally from a certain height, how would it look? So the correct answer to this question is letter C. Which of the following statements is true regarding projectile motion? A. The horizontal and vertical components vary. B. The horizontal and vertical components are always changing. C. The horizontal and vertical components are dependent on each other. Or D. The horizontal and vertical components are independent of each other. The correct answer is letter D. The horizontal and vertical components are independent of each other. When an object is thrown straight up with no air resistance, what is the velocity at the highest point before it falls? A. Depends on the initial velocity. B. Greater than the initial velocity. C. Lesser than the initial velocity. Or D. 0. The correct answer is letter D, 0. If a boy throws a crayon straight up at 12 meters per second, how fast is its speed when he catches it at the same height? Is it A, 6 meters per second, B, 12 meters per second, C, 18 meters per second, or D, 24 meters per second? The correct answer is 12 meters per second. Which of the following statements is true about an object in uniformly accelerated motion? Is it 1. Velocity is constant, 2. Acceleration is not 0, 3. Acceleration changes slowly, or 4. Velocity changes at a constant rate? These are the choices: A, 1 and 2, B, 1 and 3, C, 2 and 4, or D, 3 and 4. The correct answer to this question is letter C. Acceleration is not 0 and the velocity changes at a constant rate. Which of the following is an example of projectile motion? Is it A, a person which is trying to shoot a ball, B, a car which is moving along a straight path, a girl running, or D, a person which is pushing a pushcart? The correct answer is, of course, letter A. Projectiles include objects that are thrown horizontally as well as objects that are projected at an angle. What is the path traveled by the projectile? A. Height, B. Range, C. Trajectory, or D. Velocity? The correct answer is letter C. Trajectory.
Don't forget to like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you and goodbye.